Think about the color blue. It's the color of the sky, right? The color of the deep ocean, the color of our planet when you see it from space. I mean, blue is literally everywhere. And yet, for humanity, it has always been just out of reach. So today, we're going to dive into our millennia-long and, believe it or not, still ongoing quest to finally capture nature's rarest color. And get this, our story starts like so many great scientific stories do, with a complete and total accident. The year is 2009. We're at Oregon State University. A team of chemists is trying to create new materials for electronics. You know, the kind of stuff that might lead to faster computers. They had absolutely zero interest in pigments or paint. But when they opened up their furnace, they found something that would basically captivate the entire world. The lead chemist on the project, Mas Subramanian, he got it immediately. As he put it himself, there's just something about the color blue that fascinates us. And that fascination, it's driven artists, chemists, and even kings for centuries. Okay, let's get into this modern blue miracle. How in the world did a search for new electronics lead to this massive breakthrough in the world of art and color? Well, the process was, believe it or not, deceptively simple. A PhD student named Andrew Smith was just following the recipe: mix a few specific metal oxides together and then bake them at an insanely high temperature. The whole point was to create a brand new material for electronics. But what came out of that furnace, it wasn't the right material. Instead, it was the most brilliant, vibrant blue he had ever seen in his life. They ended up calling it Yin MN blue, which is a bit of a mouthful, I know, but it's named after its chemical parts: yttrium, indium, and manganese. And you have to understand, this wasn't just another shade of blue. This was the first new blue pigment discovered in over 200 years. And it was pretty much perfect. It was incredibly stable, completely non-toxic, and it even had this kind of superpower. It reflects infrared heat, which makes it a cool color in every single sense of the word. So the discovery of Yanmen blue, it caused a huge sensation. But it also raises a pretty big question. Why was finding a new blue pigment in the 21st century such a big deal? And this brings us to what I like to call the central paradox of blue. I mean, think about it. We are surrounded by blue. You look up, you see a blue sky. You look at a map of Earth, you see a blue planet. So, how can it possibly be one of the rarest colors to actually find in a physical form? You know, in an animal, a plant, or even a rock? Okay, this slide right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. You see, the blue of the sky isn't actually a thing. It's more like a magic trick, an effect of physics. It's just what happens when sunlight hits our atmosphere and the short wavelength blue light gets scattered way more than any other color. But a pigment, like the color in a flower, that's a chemical substance. It's real stuff. And a true blue pigment has to have this really complex molecular structure, one that's able to absorb the red part of the light spectrum. And it turns out nature is just not very good at making molecules that can do that. And so, because nature wasn't just going to hand it over, humanity began its own epic quest to create it. And that quest started with a stone that was literally more precious than gold. This is lapis lazuli. For thousands and thousands of years, this semi-precious stone, mined mostly in the mountains of what is now Afghanistan, was the only source for a deep, vibrant blue. And the process to grind it down into a pigment, which we call ultramarine, was ridiculously tedious and incredibly expensive. And this right here really illustrates just how precious it was. During the Renaissance, ultramarine was so expensive that patrons often had to buy the pigment separately from all the other paints for an artist. So artists saved it for the most important subjects, like the robes of the Virgin Mary, to symbolize her status as the Queen of Heaven. You can even see it in Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring. That pop of blue isn't just color, it's a statement. It's pure luxury. The Egyptians, though, they weren't about to wait around for some expensive stone from a faraway mountain. With some unbelievable ingenuity, they became the world's first color chemists. We're talking around 2500 BCE. They figured out how to mix sand, plant ash, and copper, heat it all up, and bam, they created the world's very first synthetic pigment, Egyptian blue. But it would still take thousands of more years and the birth of modern chemistry before blue could finally become a color for everyone. This timeline really shows you the slow march of progress. I mean, look at those huge gaps in innovation. After the early use of minerals like azurite and the invention of Egyptian blue, things basically went quiet for millennia. Then another accident in a lab in 1706 gives us Prussian blue. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution, synthetic indigo is created in 1878. And then another long wait until our story's beginning, Yin Blue in 2009. And to really understand the sheer industrial might that was poured into this quest, just consider this. To synthesize indigo dye in the late 19th century, the chemical company BAS spent 18 million gold marks. That was more than the entire value of the company at the time. All of that for a single color. This whole incredible history of science and industry, it just begs one final question. Why? Why this color? Why have we been so completely obsessed with the color blue? Well, blue carries a weight of symbolism that's just unlike any other color. It represents what the Germans call Ferne, this deep sense of distance and remoteness. It's the color of Sehnsucht, a powerful, almost untranslatable longing, which is why the German Romantics were always searching for that mythical blue flower. And it can mean harmony and clarity, but it can also mean sadness, feeling blue, and coldness. It's a color of these incredible, powerful contradictions. And throughout our cultures, you see it constantly being elevated to the absolute highest status. It symbolizes the divine, as the color of the sky and the mantle of the Virgin Mary. It symbolizes royalty, which is where we get the phrase blue blood. And of course, it's become this powerful symbol of identity, woven into the flags of nations all around the world. So humanity's search for blue, from grinding up stones to splitting atoms in a lab, it's really a story about us. It's about our desire to capture a tiny piece of the infinite, to make the intangible, tangible. And the quest isn't even over. Scientists today are still trying to create a true blue rose, or a stable blue food coloring. Which leaves us with a final thought. Having finally more or less conquered blue, what impossible color are we going to chase next?